Hello, the Pioneer viewers. Today we open the doors to a new phase of war. One no longer fought only on the front lines, but in the very arteries of global economies. This is not the story of a siege or a lost position. It's the story of a fracture opening in the heart of a system. And this time, that fracture runs straight through Moscow. As the Russia-Ukraine war approaches its fourth year, the front lines drawn on maps have become only one part of the conflict. Pipelines, refineries, and energy routes are now battlefields of their own. Tanks, missiles, aircrafts all breathe through one lifeline: fuel. And in recent days, Ukraine has made it clear it intends to cut off that breath entirely. A deafening explosion pierced the midnight silence, and in an instant it wasn't just a pipeline that was struck, but the very nervous system of Putin's economy. Before we move on to the analysis, a quick reminder: don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily reports and exclusive insights. I personally read your comments, so keep sharing your thoughts and let us know what stories you'd like to see next on The Pioneer. Near Moscow, the Kontsevoy fuel pipeline suddenly burst into flames. A towering column of orange fire rose into the sky, visible for miles. At first, Russian officials claimed it was a technical malfunction, but no one believed them. Ukrainian intelligence sources had already spoken. This was a surgical strike on Russia's energy lifeline. This pipeline was one of the most strategic supply arteries of the Russian military, stretching from the refineries of Ryazan to the battlefronts. It fueled both the tanks and Donbass and the armored divisions pushing through Crimea. In other words, this was not merely an explosion, it was the severing of an army's lifeblood. Ukraine never officially claimed responsibility, but sources close to Kyiv were direct. Russia can now be hit anywhere. This is only the beginning. In the early years of the war, Ukraine was on the defensive, but by 2024, the picture had started to shift. With long-range missiles from the West, advanced drone systems, and cyber warfare teams, Ukraine gained the ability to strike deep inside Russian territory. And now that power is being aimed straight at the Kremlin's arteries. After the attack, Russia faced a severe logistical and fuel crisis. In several regions, fuel sales were restricted. Operations in the Ural and Volga regions slowed to a crawl. Russian media tried to hide it, but social media told another story. Trucks stalled, train shipments delayed, supply lines to the front fractured, and in the shadows of it all, pressure on Putin began to mount. According to insiders, the Kremlin has held several closed-door briefings on the fuel crisis. Some military advisors have classified Ukraine's recent strikes as strategically catastrophic, because the target now isn't the soldiers, it's the system that allows that soldier to move. Inside Putin's own circle, unrest is growing. The Ministry of Economy is reportedly bracing for a new wave of inflation triggered by the surge in fuel prices. Russia's energy exports are under strain, already crippled by sanctions and now further weakened by domestic losses. This isn't just an energy crisis anymore. It's becoming a political one. Turning back to Kyiv, Ukrainian officials see this attack as a turning point. A senior source from the Ministry of Defense said, "We are no longer just defending. We are defining the tempo of this war." Indeed, in recent weeks, attacks deep within Russian territory have intensified. Explosions, sabotage, and drone strikes have been reported across Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod. Russia's energy infrastructure, refineries, depots, and pipelines, has become a grid of exposed targets. Western analysts say Ukraine has mastered asymmetric warfare, focusing not on direct confrontation, but on collapsing the enemy from within, crippling the economy, morale, and logistics. And it seems this strategy is beginning to pay off. Meanwhile, the Kremlin remains publicly silent. Russian officials still avoid admitting any direct Ukrainian involvement, but the steady stream of maintenance work and technical issues reported across Russia reveals the truth. Even inside its own borders, Russia is no longer safe. Experts warn that these developments go beyond the battlefield. They are reshaping Russia's global position. For years, Moscow wielded its energy dominance as a weapon, using Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas as leverage. But now that weapon is turning against its master. The Kremlin, once holding the world hostage with energy, is now choking on its own smoke. For Putin, the nightmare is not losing ground at the front, it's losing trust at home. As the war drags on, mounting casualties and economic decline are stirring unrest in Moscow. Fuel prices are climbing, transportation is faltering, and production is slowing. Ordinary Russians are now feeling the weight of this war in their daily lives. And no matter how tight the censorship, that reality seeps into every home. So here's the question we must ask as the pioneer. Was this truly just a pipeline attack, or has Ukraine executed a strategic move that could change the course of the entire war? Because sometimes a missile doesn't stop tanks, it paralyzes a system. And when that system shuts down, war is no longer fought on the battlefield, but in every city, every station, every room where decisions are made. Ukraine is no longer fighting with dust drones, missiles, or men. It's fighting with patience, precision, and strategy. Meanwhile, Russia is crumbling under the weight of the myth it built, the illusion of invincibility. Once the world's energy giant, the Kremlin now struggles to fuel its own war. Perhaps this is history's cruelest irony. A nation that once threatened to freeze Europe now faces the risk of freezing itself. And in the middle of the war, a silent pipeline explosion might go down as one of the unseen turning points of this entire conflict. Because sometimes what shatters a nation isn't an explosion, it's the silence that follows. That silence grows, echoes, and eventually fractures the very veins of an empire. So we ask again as the pioneer, was this merely an attack, or the moment when Russia's resolve began to unravel? Share your thoughts with us below, because sometimes the loudest echoes come from silent collapses.